Frankie, shall we start with the transfer rumour that we seen earlier on today? Liam Delap, ahead of Evan Ferguson in the pecking order. Doesn't necessarily mean he's our number one target, but he's been linked to West Ham. What's your thoughts?
As you know, I think he's fantastic. I built a huge collection of his memorabilia from early on. Just always thought he would be the next big striker in the country. He broke every single record in the sort of youth leagues on his way through, was just scoring for absolute fun. And I built that collection thinking he would hopefully go on to be sort of the next big English striker. The next Harry Kane is what I always used to call him. I feel like he was a very similar sort of player. And why I can't stand Harry Kane, I just felt like he had that natural finishing ability, big, strong, just everything you need from a centre forward. So I built that thinking I would hopefully make a pretty penny. But I'm quite happy with the alternative that he becomes one of our own. So I'm excited for it.
Let's start with we'll do the do you believe it, then we'll do the do you want it to happen kind of discussion. So do you believe the transfer rumour that we could get him?
Do I believe that he would be more favourable than Evan Ferguson? Absolutely. I mean, you can't not. He's so superior to Evan Ferguson. It's ridiculous. So, yeah, absolutely can believe that. Do I believe West Ham are seriously looking at him as somebody that they would go all out for? I believe they're interested.
Yeah.
I think he fits the bill, and I've got no problem with that. Do I believe they will beat the other people who will be interested to his name and be committed enough to do that? I don't.
Yeah, I'm on the same wavelength as you because I actually believe that we would be interested because why wouldn't we be? If Ipswich went down, and there's a lot of talk that there's a £40 million release clause in his contract as well, which I know some other Ipswich players do have a relegation release clause in their contract, and I 100% know that. I don't know if Delap's one of them, but it's obviously a policy the club are willing to put in their player deals. And I think it's a common thing. If you're someone like Delap that was going to go join Ipswich, you might want that in there just in case you got relegated, just like Manchester City wanted clauses in it when they sold Delap to Ipswich as well. And I think this is what would make it interesting because whilst Delap might want to wait and see who else comes along, it takes out the thing that West Ham struggle with, which is negotiating with the club. We don't need to do that. We know what it is, 40 million. It's a very, very reasonable price. I think it's actually quite on the cheaper side of things rather than the more expensive side of it. He's obviously linked to other clubs like Chelsea, Man United and Liverpool at the minute. But I think to some extent going to Ipswich shows that he's willing to go to the right club rather than the biggest club per se. And if Ipswich were to survive relegation this season, which they won't, but just bear with me here, if they were, and going into the summer, would Delap move or would he maybe give it another year? I wouldn't be surprised if he stayed another year at Portman Road and went, you know what, I'm the main guy here. I'm scoring goals in the Premier League, playing Premier League football. England's eyes are on me. Tuchel's eyes are on me. I'll have another season, maybe even two, and then I will pick which club I want to go to that's playing Champions League football because he does have time on his side. So I would absolutely love it. West Ham went all out for Liam Delap. The minute their relegation is confirmed, get that bid in and put the pressure on other clubs then and say, right, come on then, let's see if you want him, you're going to have to step up and put the money on the table now. No negotiating for Sesko or anything like that. Let's go get Liam Delap. So do I think we'll get him? No, I think there'll be far more appealing clubs that's in for him. But I do think the way we've played under Potter, now the problem is we've got such little evidence, Frankie, of West Ham under Potter with Füllkrug as striker. We've got a half of football against Wolves, 50 minutes against Aston Villa, and then 40, 50 minutes at the weekend against Bournemouth there when he came off the bench. However, that's the best football we played under Graham Potter. That bit against Villa, the second half against Bournemouth, in my opinion, anyway. And then there was an improvement in the second half against Wolves as well. And if that's the type of striker we require, Füllkrug's profile, then I look at Delap and think that he's much more suited to what we would need, other than Jonathan David, for example, someone that apparently we're going all out for. Would love it. Believe we're interested. Don't think it'll happen, unfortunately. Agree.
Yeah, I kind of do agree. I don't think he's going to want to hang around in the Championship too much. I
I
just
don't
think
think he'll hang around in the Championship at all. I think he's going this summer.
yeah, and really, just I think he's got the right character. I don't think money will convince him. That's the thing. I don't think he's going to just go for whoever offers him, the best contract. I think you've really got to sit him down and say, because what he's desperate for, he needs to prove himself. He's been the man. He's banged in all the goals. He then had some really iffy times going out on loan, but those iffy times were always the transition between how he played football as a young lad. He was always the bigger lump. He was always the one who had the half a yard of pace. I used to just enjoy watching him so much, and it was always going to take him a bit of time to get up to speed with that in the Premier League. Going from an 18-year-old boy in the Premier League 2 or Development League, whatever they call it these days, and being that man who's just got that bit of, he had a presence about him. He was just fantastic. He just really did bully people. And then when you go into the men's game, all of a sudden you're not the big lump anymore. You're not the person who's just got that little bit of half a yard of pace on everyone. All of a sudden, you're up against people who are already developed, fully mature. And how many strikers come from abroad where you think they're fully developed, 24, 25 years of age, go into the Premier League and go, I can't believe how difficult it is in the Premier League. The defenders are unbelievable. So you think when an 18-year-old kid's trying to do that, it's super, super difficult. So I never expected him to kind of hit the ground running, but he had such a torrid time on loan and at these other clubs that I just think he really needs someone now to put their arm around him and say, do you know what, we're going to stick with you and you're our man. And we're going to, similar to what he's had with Ipswich this year, but he needs to be in a better team. He deserves to be in a better team. And if he can get that opportunity and have a club that, even when he goes maybe a couple of games without scoring and they're patient with him and there isn't going to be a bit of unrest or people getting on his back and everything else, I just firmly believe that he is really going to come good. I don't think Chelsea's right for that. I think that's the worst move that he can possibly make. That just is a really bad move. I actually think West Ham is the right move for him. It's just whether or not you can convince him and whether we've got the right people to convince him. And that's where I'm a little bit unsure. The only thing that's not right for him as West Ham is that we know that going into next season, Potter is going to have a lot of eyes on him. He's already feeling a bit of disgruntlement. And if we don't hit the ground running and he's got a centre forward who isn't scoring, then those two things combined could be a worst case scenario. So that's what makes me nervous about him coming to West Ham. But selfishly, I honestly believe that he could be the forward, the plus 10 goal a season for the next, 8 to 10 years. He is that man. So yeah, I'm just so hopeful that we do just show that we're serious about it for a change and don't try and play any of the games we play and don't try and like you said, the actual negotiation of price is taken out of it, but we have to sit in a room and make him believe that we are the right place to play his football.
Yeah, I think he's at the right club for the season. I think Ipswich Town's been a wonderful club for him, and he hasn't always been the best striker in the league. There's been games I've watched this season where he's been completely out of the game, and that's part of the learning curve. And I think he's had a really good manager in McKenna for his development, but I just think he's too good for the Championship, and he's got to get the right move next. And weirdly, I think West Ham could be the right club and the right level for him as well. I do worry that maybe Liverpool might be a season too soon. Like I said, I do think another year in the Premier League and then that step up, and he might look at West Ham as a stepping stone. That never bothers me because it's up to the club then to match his ambitions. If you can get Delap in, a bit like what we've done with Kudus to some extent, which is come to West Ham and here's your release clause. If a Champions League club comes in and wants you, they pay that, you can go. Well, it's up to West Ham to convince the player that actually, if that club do come in, you go, no, I'm okay here, because minimum fee release clause is one thing, but the player doesn't have to leave. Just like Delap doesn't have to leave Ipswich, we could all offer 40 million and trigger the clause. Delap could perfectly well turn around and say, no thanks, I'm going to stay with Ipswich, thank you. They don't have to go. So I don't see an issue of players looking at West Ham thinking, I'll go there, but my ambitions are greater than what they can give me. Not an issue with it. It's up to the club to then match those ambitions and be competitive on the pitch. So high hope, low expectation with this one. But speaking of that second half against Bournemouth, well, speaking about the whole game against Bournemouth, Frankie, don't want to put words in your mouth or anything, but what did you make of the game?
I won't go through it all because I think everyone's already been through it all, and I have to make sure that I'm still. I had too many comments about how positive I was last week, Gio. I didn't like it; made me feel uncomfortable. I need to go back to grumpy Frankie again. That's really
honest. We just want honest Frankie. If you're positive, good. I wish everybody could be positive. If you're negative, not good. But it's not your fault. You're negative. That's how I always see it. Just be honest.
I love West Ham, and as you know, I'm always positive going to West Ham. I really don't care whether we're in the Premier League. One of the best seasons I ever had was the season in the Championship. It was the most fun season I ever had supporting West Ham. So I'm there, rain or shine anyway. But I've seen this before, Gio. It feels like massive deja vu when everyone goes, "Oh, Full Crew, what a difference! The best football we've played." How many times did we have this under, Pellegrini, where it was, terrible first half, total write-off. Then all of a sudden it was, oh yeah, but look at that second half. How many times did we have it under our last manager? Sorry, mate.
Lopetegui.
How many times did we have it under him? Same scenario.
Once.
Terrible first half, write-off, awful. And then, oh yeah, but what a second half. And even to some degree in the final sort of Moyes days as well, we had that exactly the same. And it was almost like the players just come out and went, no, we're just going to come out here and do our thing. And they sort of abandon what the manager's sort of, telling them to do. And they come up with their towels up and they get out there. And I've just seen it so many times and happen so often that I just can't get excited about it this time because it just goes back to square one again. That when I will start to have those feelings of, oh, look how much better it can be when we've got a proper centre forward. And I've got no question that having a proper centre forward in your team makes a big difference. And that isn't even Mikel Antonio because he's not a proper centre forward. It's a proper centre forward who's played there all their career and know how to play as a centre forward. It's obviously going to make a difference. Until I see us play with Fulkrug and start him for the next 3 weeks, and we play exactly as we did in the second half, then I'll start to feel like that and go, actually, with a proper centre forward, the way Potter plays football, we're going to be all right. But I'm not going to base that on a second half of football where they come out at home, get their towels up, put in a bit more effort and have a go. I need to see that for 90 minutes for the next few games, and then I'll take that on board. But I just can't do it yet. And I find it a little bit frustrating that we always do this. And the last thing I want to do, and this seems really harsh on the man because I think he's had a brilliant attitude coming back from injury, Fulkrug. For all of I was uncertain about him, I think he's had a brilliant attitude. I think he's worked double hard to get himself back to fitness. And I think he really looks like he wants to repay the transfer fee that we paid for him. And he really wants to, give his everything for West Ham, which is all we ever ask. So I can take that all on board. I really don't want him to be injury-free from now until the end of the season. Go and get himself, not quite 9 goals, but or whatever he needs, 8. So I lose my 50 quid. But
7.
Get him
you only need
7. Get a few goals. He can get 6. He could get 6. I'm all right with that.
Goals.
So if he goes and gets 6 goals from now until the end of the season, I'm just really concerned that West Ham then play that as our strikers sorted for next year. Next season, sorry. It just really worries me that West Ham will go, do you know what? We'll invest in other areas. He looks like he's going to do us for next season, and we won't go out and get a big marquee signing of a striker. So.
I would argue. I get what you're saying. I completely understand your reservations about the style of play. By the way, I enjoyed the second half against Bournemouth, but then sort of later on in the evening, Saturday and Sunday morning, I actually found myself a bit frustrated because I thought, well, why didn't we do that from the start of the game? Why have we not seen that more often? And I do genuinely believe, had we started the game with the team that was on the pitch after 55 minutes, I think we would have beat Bournemouth. I don't think they were great on Saturday. They weren't very good. I think they were there for the taking, and it was just that we were very underwhelming in the first half. But I think what you were saying there about how if Fulkrug remains fit, it might suggest that we don't need a striker. I think it's actually the opposite. I'm not saying the club will think this. I understand why you think the club will think the way you do. But it proves that if you get a striker and a good striker, and he's available for the entire season, the way you play football could be and will be dramatically different. And actually, it should reinforce the need to invest heavily in a top quality striker, because with literally just two halves of football, 90 minutes combined of Fulkrug under Potter, we've seen the significant difference he makes being on that pitch. And all it does to me is show, or it should show the board of West Ham, which is you get a top striker in next season that, as well as Fulkrug, this is how we can play for the entire season. And that's my frustration with it. I think we've also got the Ferguson thing, which would be the counter argument, which is, well, we did go get him on in January, just didn't play him. I can shrug it off. I've never been so less arsed about a transfer than I have about Evan Ferguson, and the fact that it hasn't worked out and he's not playing. I'm not that bothered. I'd be completely fake in pretending if I was remotely bothered. I was frustrated he wouldn't play him when he was the only striker available, because I was thinking, well, what's the point? But because I just didn't want to sign him anyway in the summer, I'm sort of pleased in a weird way that he's not come in and smash goals in. Because I thought, oh no, we're fork out 50 million on this kid, and he's going to probably break down at some point next season. I didn't want to see it happen. I think we've got to really go aggressive in the transfer market this summer, not just with the striker, with various different positions and players, but especially the striker position. Fulkrug, reckon he's going to get some goal though, won't it?
Yeah, no, proper striker's goal. That's what you want to see.
7 more. I want to see it 7 more times.
I'm sure you do. And you know what? He's got a chance. He's got a chance.
Southampton at home, I'm praying, is a Fulkrug hat-trick game just for a bit of fun.
Yeah, no, it would be game on. And yeah, I just have this picture of like typical West Ham behaviour. And it's like, get to the end of the season, Fulkrug's got a few more goals. He's looking great. We have the best sort of spell that we've had all season. Everything's looking all rosy. Or Antonio's also working himself back to fitness. He can be a bit of a backup. Or do you know what? Don't worry about a striker in the summer. Let's just go and worry about other positions and blah blah blah. And I just don't want to see it yet.
Well,
I just think it would be the worst move that we could do.
We're not going to mention Liverpool. We'll catch up later on in the week because it's quite far away, the Liverpool game. We'll catch up later on and do a mini preview and stuff. But yesterday there was a list that came out. Gonzo did a video about it. 10 players that could leave West Ham this summer as part of a major overhaul. I would like you to say keep or sell. And you ready?
Go for it.
Rodriguez.
Sell.
Fulkrug.
Keep.
Emerson.
Sell.
Cornet.
A sell.
Antonio. Now I appreciate you can't sell, so it's either new deal or no deal. Antonio.
No deal.
Ings.
Sell.
Sufal.
Sell.
Craswell.
Sell.
Fabianski.
Sell.
And sign or not sign Carlos Soler.
Not sign.
And what about he wasn't on the list, but Ferguson as well, I assume.
Not sign.
So 11, well, out of 11 players, Fulkrug was the only keep in there. Big overhaul required this summer.
But again, a caveat to that is, and the reason why it's a keep is because you just don't trust West Ham. That's why. If you said Liam Delap's coming in, but he's got to go out to come in, then
I actually think like a Delap and Fulkrug would be like the perfect pairing next season. Like I honestly, genuinely, I'm not just saying this, I think Fulkrug could almost be an incredible striker for Delap to play with / work under for a short period of time and learn from him. At the end of the day, he's a German international, and I think he is a top player when fit. The issue is, I'm very confident he won't be fit for the entire season next season. I mean, the typical bad luck I have, I actually think he will probably score 6 goals between now and the last game of the season. Then he'll be injured for the last game of the season against Ipswich, so I won't get my 7th goal from him. That's the West Ham way when it comes to me, I'm afraid. Lastly, a lot of talk this week that sort of David Sullivan's back at the wheel. He's in charge of the transfer, wheeling and dealing. Your thoughts? Did you have a reaction?
I just love how he left that to the end, because if we'd have started with that, then the lap thing wouldn't have even been a conversation. We could have just ended the video after 1 second.
Well, the thing is still right. Even David Sullivan can surely manage to negotiate a transfer that has a minimum fee release clause.
I just don't know. To me, it was never always about that. You've also got to convince the player that it's the right place to play their football. And I just think the reason why we got some of the deals over the line that we did is because it was taken out of Sullivan's hands.
I
don't trust him in either part of it. I really don't.
Yeah. So are you concerned, or more concerned? Let's just say you were already concerned. Are you further concerned that's going to be David Sullivan that's leading the business?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like we had a bit of a change of momentum. I'm not saying that every single signing we made when Sullivan wasn't involved has been a good one, but I just feel like we did get some over the line that I think we might not have got over the line if he had been involved. So it was a nice change. But, and now we go back to him and we go back to his mates and signing with the same agents and all this malarkey. And yeah, it just becomes a real frustrating. But at the end of the day, we're going to go into the window again. And like you say, it's a little bit of a rebuild again. And, we needed quite a few players. We're obviously not speaking as much, but when obviously Stighton came in, he was very, he was a big focal point, really. I mean, we had songs about him and everything. It was, he was almost, he almost had the presence of a player. Like that's the level that he was on. He was very upfront and in your face. Our new man that come from Chelsea, he's very much in the background. Who knows what he's working on in the background there? So hopefully, all Sullivan's got to do is the numbers, and hopefully we've got our man in the background also at the moment working hard to highlight the players, and hopefully whoever he suggests will be the ones that Sullivan actually has to go and work on. If he's just involved in negotiation part, it isn't the end of the world. If he starts playing West Ham like real life football manager again and start to sign the players that he wants, then it's a recipe for disaster.
Right, we'll leave it there. I'm not giving my opinion because I've done a video with Gonzo speaking about the director of football / Sullivan's role in more detail, and that will be up on the channel tomorrow. Frankie, thank you very much as always. We'll catch up later in the week and discuss Liverpool, and we'll find out how your football team's doing on later in the week as well, if that's okay. But if you guys at home have enjoyed this podcast, please do drop a like on it by clicking the thumbs up, subscribing to Hammers Chat, myself and Frankie. Well, we'll catch up with you at the end of the week.